Hydrogen is an environmentally friendly energy source that is being developed for the future. With abundant and varied natural resources, through regulatory support and appropriate technology, Indonesia can become one of the world's hydrogen centers. Currently, the Indonesian government is developing green hydrogen production. The electricity source will come from geothermal power plants and solar power plants. As a strengthening step towards green hydrogen, PLN has taken a strategic path in the form of implementing hydrogen-based co-firing. In the future, hydrogen co-firing will be implemented on a large scale. This initiative is included in PLN's roadmap towards nationally determined contribution 2030 and net zero emission 2060. Hydrogen development in Indonesia continues to be carried out through various research and pilot projects. Effort to introduce green hydrogen to business practitioners and stakeholders in the electrical energy sector as well as to the public continue to be communicated. Multi-partner collaboration is an important approach in encouraging the realization of green industry cluster for the development of green hydrogen in Indonesia. PLN and its subsidiaries, together with other state-owned enterprises, synergize to explore opportunities for developing green hydrogen for domestic and foreign needs. The development of green hydrogen provides a fresh alternative to many industries that are making energy transitions. The development of green hydrogen will not only have a positive impact on accelerating decarbonization, but also on the economic sector. The government, together with PLN and related parties, are currently accelerating green hydrogen investment. This step is expected to encourage the realization of the use of green hydrogen and contribute significantly to the effort to achieve a zero emissions target.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan.
Selamat datang dan selamat bergabung dalam acara International Webinar Invest in Our Planet, Green Ecosystem as an Investment in Future Earth yang tepat dilaksanakan pada Hari Bumi tahun 2022. It is our pleasure to officially welcome you to the international webinar Invest in Our Planet, Green Ecosystem as an Investment in Future Earth, an event organized by PLN in collaboration with Energy Academy Indonesia and Society of Renewable Energy to commemorate the Earth Day 2022.
My name is Vania Fitrianti Herlambang and my partner.
And I'm Theodorus Daniel.
Will be the MC for today, airing from PLN Corporate University. First of all, we would like to extend a warm welcome to the Honorable Assistant Deputy of Energy, Oil and Gas Industry, Ministry of State-Owned Enterprise, Mr. Abdi Mustakim.
Director General of New Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation, Mr. Dadan Kusdiana.
To the Director General of Climate Change, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Mrs. Laksmi Dhewanthi.
President Director of PLN Persero, Mr. Darmawan Prasodjo.
And to the Director of Human Capital Management PT PLN Persero, Mr. Yusuf Didi Setiarto. So ladies and gentlemen, this event aims at increasing awareness and understanding of the climate crisis and its potential solutions in the electricity sector to expand collaboration in downstream green ecosystem. Furthermore, we also would like to highlight the role of women empowerment in driving energy transition. Wow, sounds very exciting, right?
Yeah, that's right, Fania. As the key player of Indonesia's electricity sector, PLN plays a critical role in Indonesia energy transition.
So today we conduct the event in English, but don't worry because we already provide you with interpretation features. This is how to use the language interpretation feature on Zoom app. If you use laptop, silakan untuk menekan tombol globe atau bola dunia, atau jika tidak ada tombol 3 titik Bapak dan Ibu, silakan untuk diklik. Di situ ada fitur interpretasi. Silakan pilih bahasa yang diinginkan, bahasa Indonesia atau bahasa Inggris. Ladies and gentlemen, if you use laptop, you can see on the bottom corner of your screen, there is a globe icon or 3 dots icon. You can click them and then choose interpretation feature. There you can choose your preferred language, whether it's English or Bahasa. If you use a handphone or mobile phone, you can click the menu on more or click 3 dots icon. So choose the language that you prefer, whether it's English or Bahasa. Silakan jika Bapak Ibu menggunakan handphone, bisa klik tombol menu atau titik 3 dan pilih bahasa yang diinginkan, baik bahasa Inggris maupun bahasa Indonesia.
Yeah, Fania and ladies and gentlemen, this event complies with proper health protocol, especially the safety induction and housekeeping rules. Let's watch the safety induction video.
Selamat bergabung pada kegiatan daring kali ini. Sebelum memulai kegiatan, sesuai dengan peraturan keselamatan kerja, marilah kita perhatikan safety induction berikut dalam melakukan kegiatan daring agar terhindar dari ketidaknyamanan atau cedera selama bekerja secara daring. Mari perhatikan hal-hal sebagai berikut. Pertama, apabila kegiatan daring dilakukan bersama dalam satu ruangan, tetap jaga prokes, kenakan masker, dan saling menjaga jarak. Kedua, pastikan posisi duduk ergonomis di antaranya adalah duduk tegak tidak membungkuk, sudut siku rata dengan keyboard, leher tidak menunduk. Ketiga, atur pencahayaan dan jarak perangkat monitor Anda agar terhindar dari dampak buruk pada mata seperti radiasi dan mata lelah. Keempat, gunakan aturan 20-20-20. Setiap 20 menit menatap layar, arahkan pandangan sejauh 20 feet atau sekitar 6 meter selama 20 detik. 5. Lakukan peregangan otot di sela bekerja, terutama peregangan pada bahu, leher, dan pergelangan tangan. 6. Perhatikan penggunaan listrik perangkat-perangkat Anda. Jangan membebani stop kontak berlebihan. Perhatikan bahaya yang bersumber dari kabel charger, saklar, kabel, dan perangkat di sekitar Anda. 7. Perhatikan alarm tanda bahaya. Pastikan Anda mengetahui suara dalam bahaya di lokasi Anda. Jika terjadi kondisi bahaya, lakukan evakuasi diri menuju lokasi aman atau titik kumpul atau assembly point jika Anda di gedung perkantoran. Dan ikuti panduan tim tanggap darurat yang bertugas. 8. Hindari aktivitas berbahaya. Tidak melakukan aktivitas lainnya yang membahayakan keselamatan, seperti mengemudi saat rapat daring. 9. Terakhir, jika Anda mengalami rasa tidak nyaman atau nyeri pada sistem rangka otot tubuh usai berkegiatan secara daring, konsultasikanlah dengan dokter. Berkegiatan secara daring sudah menjadi dunia baru kita. Mari tetap perhatikan keamanan dan keselamatan agar performa kerja tetap prima. Selamat bekerja secara daring. Tidak ada yang lebih penting dari jiwa manusia.
Fania and all the participants, we would like to start this program by playing our national anthem, Indonesia Raya. May I therefore ask all of you to rise.
To start our agenda, I would like to invite Bapak Darmawan Prasodjo as the CEO of PT PLN Persero to the stage to give an opening speech. To Bapak Darmawan Prasodjo, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon to all distinguished speakers, distinguished guests, and distinguished panelists. The Director General of Climate Change, Ibu Laksmi Dhewanthi, Director General of New Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation, Pak Dadan Kusdiana. Terima kasih Pak atas kehadirannya Bapak. Assistant Deputy for Energy, Oil and Gas Industry, Pak Abdi Mustakim. Terima kasih Pak. And also here present Minister Councillor of Economic Infrastructure and Investment, Australian Embassy in Jakarta, Mr. Tim Stapleton, founder of Energy Academy Indonesia, Ibu Desti Alkano, distinguished speaker here, Pak Agam Subarkah from Clean Energy Investment, and also here Regional Director Southeast Asia of South Pole, Ms. Khunikakorn, EY Asian Power and Utilities Leader, Mr. Giles Pasquale, CFO of PLN, Ibu Cynthia Rusli, Director of Global Power System Transformation Consortium, Ms. Karen Watsak. Present here also the Director of Regional of Sumatera Kalimantan, Pak Adi Lumakso, Director Regional of Mega Project and Renewable Energy, Pak Wiluyo, and also Director of Human Capital Management, Pak Didi Setiarto, and all the distinguished participants of the International Half-Day webinar, Invest in Our Planet, Green Ecosystem as Investment in Future of the Earth. Why are we here today? We are experiencing what we call the climate change. The Earth is warming because of the concentration of greenhouse gas increasing. For each kilowatt hour of electricity produced, there is a greenhouse gas emission. For each liter of gasoline or diesel fuel that we burn, there is also greenhouse gases. In that regard, I'm going to remind everybody that present here that we have one purpose of all, to ensure that the next generations is having better future than current generations. But the earth is getting warmer. Some time ago, a big chunk of ice in the South Pole breaking up, moving to the north, and then disappear, melting. Then the sea level is also rising. Does anybody know that the Greenland lost 18 billion tons of surface mass, where the amount of ice that melted would be enough to cover the entire state of Florida in 5 centimeters of water? So we are here, gathering here to make sure that we can stop further the earth warming, and this can be done by reducing the greenhouse gases emission, CO2 emission. And I'm here to announce PLN is fully committed exactly to do so. The CO2 emissions coming from the electricity sector today is roughly 240 million metric tons annually. Moving forward in 2060, without any intervention, without any effort of reduction, it's going to increase to roughly 920 million metric tons in that year alone. But we're not going to let that thing happen. PLN has already announced that we are fully committed to reduce CO2 emissions, and we're going to have carbon neutral system by 2060. Today we are facing dilemma. If we want a cheap energy, it's dirty. If we want clean energy, it's expensive. But don't worry, humankind innovates. In 2015, PLN auctioned solar power. The price was 27 cents per kilowatt hour. In 2017, we did exactly the same. The price was already diminishing to become only 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Only last year, we auctioned it again, the price reducing to only 3.6 cents per kilowatt hour. This means the price of renewable energy is getting cheaper year by year, month by month, week by week, even day by day. We are sure here, through innovations, humankind is going to prevail. In the near future, when we're talking about cheap energy, it's clean energy. At that time, renewable energy is able to compete in terms of technical, in terms of commercial, in terms of economical, compared to fossil fuel energy. In that regard, humankind is able to reclaim our right to survive, and we are able to solve this problem of climate change. Today, our size of electricity market is roughly 250 terawatt hour. Our electricity demand growth annually is roughly 4.5%. Moving forward in 2060, then the size of electricity market is going to become roughly 1,800 terawatt-hour, 6 or 7 times the size of electricity market today. How much capacity we need to develop during this period until 2060? Roughly 230 gigawatt additional capacity. And we're going to build mostly renewable and clean energy power system. How much does it cost? When we're talking about renewable energy, it's front-loaded heavy investment. It's different from gas-fired power plants or other fossil fuel power system. That means we need roughly $500 billion additional investment. We need also to come up with the latest technology. We need to be part of this innovation movement to make sure that renewable energy is going to be competitive. In the process, in building this new renewable energy power system, we have to take into account how we're going to be able to build our national capacity. This development of new generation capacity has to be part of the national development. This has to be able to create jobs, to eradicate poverty, and to accelerate growth, to give prosperity to all Indonesians. We need to move forward. And how are we going to do this? Are we going to do this alone? No. The only way to move forward, the only way for PLN to move forward is through collaborations. Collaboration of strategy, collaboration of policy, collaboration of investment, collaboration of innovation, collaboration of operations, collaboration within domestic, collaboration of in the international communities. Humankind has to be unified. This climate change problem cannot be solved by us alone, but we're going to be able to solve this if we are together. In that regard, I ask each one that is present here, we need to support each other. We have to collaborate for one purpose of all, to reclaim our right of humankind to survive. PLN is being part of this innovation movement. In the next 2 months, we are auctioning our de-dieselization project. We change our diesel engines with renewable energy, but with a battery that can operate in the next 24 hours as a base load. In this regard, we need to show that the auction system is going to drive, to expedite the innovation process. We're not locking to any technology of battery. We unlock any kind, any type of battery technology. We already eliminate the barrier to entry. We invite every single potential partner to participate. The auction is going to emphasize on the competitions and transparency. They're able to drive the price down. This is a battle of innovation. And that's why the spirit of PLN here, to ensure again that renewable energy is able to compete to fossil fuel. Today, PLN is a power and utility company. Yes, we are. But we are building technology. In that regard, in the future, PLN is a technology company. Today, our main job is to provide electricity. Yes, we are power and utility company. But in the future, our main job is to take care of the environment, while electricity is only our byproduct. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you so much, Bapak Darmawan Prasodjo, as the CEO of PT PLN Persero, for the opening speech today. And next, we would like to invite the Assistant Deputy of Energy, Oil and Gas Industry, Ministry of State-Owned Enterprise to deliver a keynote speech, Bapak Abdi Mustakim. To Bapak Abdi Mustakim, time is yours.
Baik, terima kasih MC. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, all distinguished speakers, panelists, and participants. Yang saya hormati Pak Dadan Kusdiana, Direktur Jenderal Energi Baru Terbarukan dan Konservasi Energi Kementerian SDM. Ibu Laksmi Dhewanthi, Direktur Jenderal Perubahan Iklim, Kementerian Lingkungan Hidup dan Kehutanan. Pak Darmawan Prasodjo, Direktur Utama PT PLN, beserta jajaran Direksi, the Honorable Minister Counselor of Economic Infrastructure and Investment, Australian Embassy in Jakarta, Mr. Tim Stapleton, distinguished speakers, Bapak Adgam Subarka from Clean Energy Investment Accelerator Indonesia, Regional Director Southeast Asia of South Pole, Ms. Khunikakorn, EY ASEAN Power and Utilities Leader, Mr. Julius Pascual, Director of Global Power System Transformation Consortium, Ms. Karen Watzek. Ladies and gentlemen, the most recent scientific report published by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reaffirms the adverse impacts of climate change on all economic sectors on a global scale. Climate change is indeed one of the greatest threats to humanity, which requires global actions involving both state and non-state actors. To develop decarbonization and new business strategy, carbon baselining is, of course, an important first step. Last year, 7 SOEs have done preliminary study on the baselining for Scope 1, 2, and 3 of SOEs greenhouse gas emissions and determine the aspiration for emission reductions in 2030. Based on the data, top 3 SOEs contribute direct and indirectly for 88% of emissions, which are, of course, PLN with 168 million tons CO2 equivalent for Scope 1 plus 2 and 69 million tons CO2 equivalent for Scope 3, primarily due to combustion of coal for power generation. And then Pertamina, 26 million tons CO2 equivalent Scope 1 and 2, and 266 million tons Scope 3, primarily from use of salt products like gasoline and diesel. And then Mine ID, 3 million tons CO2 equivalent Scope 1 plus 2, and 56 million tons CO2 equivalent Scope 3, primarily from use of salt coal. Within Scope 1 category, top 3 SOEs account for 95 emissions. SOE play a significant role in achieving Indonesia net zero emission target. Therefore, Ministry of SOE has set up several decarbonization initiatives with aggressive targets which aiming to reach net zero emission, if possible, by 2050. Those initiatives are categorized in 3 agendas. First is to reduce emission initiatives programs that covers for more than 50 initiatives. Secondly, to build adjacent business initiatives that covers for more than 25 initiatives. And the third is to explore step-out opportunities, which covers for more than 25 initiatives programs. Seven SOEs have done the baselining and determined the aspiration for emission reduction in 2030. There are 5 ecosystem initiatives that will be launched by the Ministry of State-owned Enterprises in supporting the decarbonization effort by the Government of Indonesia. First is Ministry of SOE's voluntarily carbon market. State-owned enterprises have various roles in the value chain stages of the carbon market. BKI as ID Survey Holding and EMI, which is PLN subsidiary, will initiate carbon credit project design and drive project development. ID Survey Holding will be able to play as independent validator in the carbon trading value chain, while other SOEs actively involved in the carbon market activity. With support from other ministries and institutions, state-owned enterprises will become a driver to set up carbon market, which hopefully accelerate the decarbonization initiative in Indonesia. Secondly, is sustainable industrial cluster. To enable just transition and capturing new opportunity, besides decarbonizing the existing industrial cluster, some key projects are currently being explored. Green Industrial Park, Green Data Center, Green Hydrogen or ammonia, Hydrogen Fuel Cell, and Green Tech Ventures. The third is to maximize the country's NBS potential. Nature-based solutions, seen as the potential voluntary solutions to combat climate change and providing significant impact to sustainability. UTPN and Perhutani, which are agroforestry SOEs, hold 67 concession licenses, which are considered for NBS projects totaling up to 3.6 million hectares. The fourth is to scale up electric vehicle adoption. With strong shareholders background, Mayan ID and Antam, Pertamina, and PLN, Indonesia Battery Corporation was formed to collaborate with global partners to play an active role in every electric vehicle battery supply chain. Furthermore, Ministry of SOEs also support the assignment of PLN to develop EV charging station by actively monitor and refine the best strategy to develop EV infrastructure. And the fifth is to increase capacity of new and renewable energy itself. Ministry of SOEs support PLN plans to add renewable energy power plant that already written on the new RUPTL 2021-2030, which is the greenest RUPTL to date. Ladies and gentlemen, the energy transition is not an easy task. Collaboration is a key to achieving net zero emissions. Ministry of SOEs encourage synergy between SOEs in the energy transition journey. The discussion of green ecosystem is timely on this important day, when the world commemorates Earth Day. Scientists predict that the Earth is 4.54 billion years old now, and humans have lived on Earth approximately 300,000 years ago. It is our responsibility to take care of our only place to live. I believe that this webinar will contribute to raising awareness and actions to tackle the climate crisis. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Abdi, for your keynote speech. Let's keep supporting our SOEs to achieve net zero in 2050. Now, we will hear a keynote speech that will be delivered by Bapak Dadan Kusdiana as the Director General of New Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation, representing the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources. Please welcome Bapak Dadan Kusdiana.
Terima kasih, Ibu Bapak MC. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang. Very good afternoon from Jakarta. Yang kami hormati Pak Darmawan Prasodjo selaku host untuk acara ini dan seluruh jajaran direksi, Pak Abdi Mustakim, Asdep dari Kementerian BUMN, terima kasih juga atas speech-nya. All of distinguished speakers, participants, also the ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, I would like also first to thank to PLN, PT PLN Persero for organizing and inviting me to this event, and also to thank to distinguished speakers for attending this great event. I am also very pleased to share with you some key points from our plans regarding the roadmap of the Indonesia energy transition toward the net zero emission, in particular in energy sector, in much more particular in terms of the renewable energy and energy efficiency. So I would like to start with my first slide here that, the commitment for emission reduction in Indonesia has been illustrated in many and several speeches stated by our President of the Republic of Indonesia in pursuing green and clean technology for industries as a means to achieve sustainable economic growth. So I believe that the use of the clean energy, the use of renewable energy that abundant in us, we have quite enough resources in terms of type, in terms of location, in terms of the volume also. Yeah. So in total, the result of the this year of the survey of the renewable energy potential reached to more than 3,600 gigawatt. And if we are talking the implementation, it's only less than 0.3%. So 11.5 gigawatt is already in the implementation, whether this is on-grid, whether this is used by off-grid or through the direct use. So we have actually more than enough in terms of the resources to reach the net zero emission targets. And our net zero emission roadmap so far, according to our NDC, can have one side back, and in particular, for example, in terms of the net zero emission roadmap, stated earlier by Pak Darmo that Indonesia has committed to reach the net zero emission by 2060 or sooner. So based on our calculation, so at the end actually we are still emitting the CO2 emission by the volume of around 400 million metric ton. This is still a big number. This is the result of our simulation compared to the business as usual target, not really target, actually this is the business as usual emission which reach around 2 gigawatt. So by this simulation, by this our roadmap, which I will show to you later on, we can reduce almost 1.6 gigaton of the emission CO2 equivalent. And some strategy that we have put in the roadmap is the first is the dual retirement of the coal-fired power plant. So we don't use the early retirement in this simulation, rather than we will retire the coal-fired power plant based on the contract, based on the existing contract. So any activities that in relation with the early retirement that will be increase our commitment, that we increase also the reduction of the CO2 emission. Of course, the second is acceleration of new and renewable energy development, in particular based on the economic and proven technology. We are going to use first is to have more solar in the grid, to have more solar in the roof, to have more solar in the implementation, whether this is in industry or for the household. To use more efficient use of technology, to encourage the use of electric vehicle and electric stoves. I think this is also good for PLN business, because now currently PLN is in the situation of oversupply in terms of the electricity generation. So by using of this EV, by using of the electric stoves, we can reduce, of course, the emission reduction, even with existing production of electricity coming from PLN, which is based on the fossil. And the last one is the application of smart grid. This is to overcome the intermittency of the variable renewable energy. I still remember when I had followed the annual meeting of the IRENA in 2015. At the time, the DG mentioned that in one area of Germany, they can reach up 39% of the renewable energy into the grid for a year. And most of the renewable energy coming from VRE, coming from solar and wind. So I believe that the technology has been with us already. The economic is also provide the benefit also to PLN in particular, if it is on grid, or to the developer or for the implementation of renewable energy. So if for now in particular, we see that the price of fossil is even much more higher. We have seen the development of price of the coal, as well as also the oil and gas. And by using the renewable, then we will be able to manage the price, the constant price. It will not affect with the situation of the global, it will not affect with the situation of fossil price. So there are some beneficial if we are using renewable energy. It's not only that this coming from resources that is free from the emission, but also in terms of the commercial issues. The next slide that I would like to share with you is our roadmap. This is up to 2060 roadmap, which is at the end actually to reach the net zero emission in the national level. Yeah. This is in particular only for energy resources, and currently we are still coordinating with the Laksmi, the DG of climate change, on how to make sure that the energy and the energy which is still emitting the emission, which is still emitting the CO2 on the production, then it can be absorbed in the same amount as also in the forest or agriculture sector. So in the first 5 years, we are targeting to reduce 198 million tons of CO2 And then in 2030, this is the commitment coming from the energy sector, which is the energy sector has to contribute of 316 gigawatt of 316 million metric ton of the CO2 reductions. We use, of course, renewable energy. We will develop the implementation to increase the use of the stove, to increase the use of electric vehicle. We are expanding the gas network for to substitute of the LPG, and also at the same time we are increase the implementation of renewable energy. So from time to time, and in before 2040, we'll add also some of the power plant coming from the nuclear, because of this current technology, of this current knowledge, and based on the current economy, in particular to have the more base load for the electricity generation, then I think the nuclear will be one of the solution. Of course, the implementation of the battery and also the hydrogen as the energy carrier will be increased, together also with the co-firing of the coal-fired power plant with biomass. Next slide, I like to slightly mention in terms of the energy efficiency. So to meet the greenhouse gas emission target that can be achieved not only by diversifying the energy sources, but also utilizing energy conservation. To accelerate the implementation of energy conservation, the government has mapped out several strategies, namely standardization of energy saving label for equipment, and also application of energy saving technology through the implementation of EV and also induction stoves. In particular, the third is energy management implementation by adopting the standard, the ISO 50001 in the energy, industrial, and building sectors. And the fourth is energy conservation business development to encourage the role of ESCO and also innovative financing for energy efficiency projects. And the last, since the implementation of renewable energy will be based on our behavior, so awareness and awards message campaign on energy saving behavior and lifestyle, presenting awards and appreciation as an incentive for the end user that could provide the concrete action in promoting the implementation of renewable energy. So by this, I would like to congratulate to all, in particular to PLN, for having this very important event. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Pak Dadan Kusdiana, as a Director General of New Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation, representing the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources for the keynote speech. And now, last but not least, we will hear a speech from the Honorable Director General of Climate Change, Ministry of Environment and Forestry. Please welcome Mrs. Laksmi Dhewanthi.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the floor. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good afternoon. My colleagues, Director General of New Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation, Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, Bapak Dadan, Kusdiana, Assistant Deputy for Energy, Oil and Gas Industry, Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises, Bapak Abdi Mustakim, Minister Counselor of Economic Infrastructure and Investment, Australian Embassy in Jakarta, Mr. Tim Stapleton, President Director of PLN, Bapak Darmawan Prasodjo, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Let us first pray to Allah, God the Almighty, for His bless to all of us and keeping us safe and healthy in this very important commemorations of the Earth Day today. Please allow me to convey a message that the Minister of Environment and Forestry, Ibu Siti Nurbaya, is unfortunately unable to attend and join this event. For this reason, I'm asked to deliver remarks on these auspicious occasions. Let me quote the UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program, that this is the first Mother Earth Day celebrated within the UN decade on ecosystem restoration. Ecosystems support all life on Earth. The healthier our ecosystem are, the healthier the planet and its people. Restoring our damaged ecosystem will help to end poverty, combat climate change, and prevent mass extinction. But we will only succeed if everyone plays a part. Furthermore, I would like to also refer to the future we want of the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development back in 2012. We recognize the planet Earth and its ecosystem are our home, and that Mother Earth is a common expression in a number of countries and regions. And we note that some countries recognize the right of nature in the context of the promotions of sustainable development. As the presidency of G20 in year 2022, Indonesia will lead the pathway of health and economic recovery, together with the internalizations of environment and climate change. G20 countries are not only dominated more than 80% world economic growth, but also emit around 80% of global greenhouse gas emission and discharge majority of marine plastic litter. This effort could strengthen our togetherness in COVID-19 recovery toward new balanced life of the world. Distinguished colleagues, participants, ladies and gentlemen, all G20 countries are parties to the UNFCCC and Paris Agreement and adopted the latest decision in COP26 in Glasgow that reflected the importance of collective actions alongside with individual actions to reduce global greenhouse gas emission to achieve the objective in keeping the global temperature at 1.5 degrees Celsius in 2100 compared to the pre-industrial industry era. With regard to the IPCC Special Report 1.5 degree year 2018 and IPCC Assessment Report 6 Working Group 1 on the physical science basis of climate change published on August 7, 2021. During 2011 to 2020, global surface temperature has been increased in average of 1.09 degrees Celsius. With the increase on land surface 1.5 degrees Celsius and on ocean surface 0.89 degrees Celsius. The global temperature will continue increase to 2.1 degree up to 3.5 degrees Celsius under immediate scenario if there is no significant reduction of greenhouse gas emission in 2020 to 2050, which will be highly depend on our ambitious effort in the periodic of time 2020 to 2030. Temperature increase of 1.5 degree will intensify rainfall and its associated risks from floods and drought, particularly in Asia countries. Distinguished colleagues, participants, ladies and gentlemen, in Glasgow, parties agreed to achieve this temperature goal by achieving net zero emission by or around 2050. Indonesia has submitted its long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilience 2050 and visions of net zero emission by 2060 or sooner, with greenhouse gas emission level in 2050 account for 540 megaton CO2 equivalent. LTS LCCR 2050 is a long-term vision of climate change policies, which will be implemented by subsequent NDCs at our nationally determined contribution. This target will be achieved mainly by energy transition that already explained by my colleagues Bapak Dadan, and follow Net-Zing 2030. Follow Net-Zing 2030 is a policy of forestry sector equipped by a comprehensive operational plan that has just launched recently by Ministry of Environment and Forestry. We already heard that in energy sector, the focus on coal power plant, transportation, and industry, in particular through early retirement coal power plant and development of renewable energy and electric vehicles. While for follow sector, follow Net-Zing 2030 comprise 15 main activities, from implementation of sustainable forest management to the rehabilitation of degraded ecosystem. With regard to national greenhouse gas inventory in 2019, energy sector contributed 36% of 1.8 gigaton CO2 equivalent, where power sector share 14.65% of it equal to 273.5 million ton CO2 equivalent. In this regard, I would like to say that both the forestry and the role of power sector is crucial to significantly reduce greenhouse gas emission. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, the spirit of Earth Day this year is strengthened by the important agenda of the Stockholm Plus 50. In this coming June, this year, 2022, we globally will commemorate 50 years of the first ever UN conference on the human environment, or we call it Stockholm Conference, which was held back in 1972 in Stockholm, Sweden. The Stockholm Plus 50, with theme of a healthy planet for the prosperity of all, our responsibility, our opportunity, will provide leaders and all stakeholders with an opportunity to draw on global action to achieve the bold and urgent actions needed to secure a better future on healthy planets. Just this morning, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry hosted the first of series of 3 public dialogues aimed to be collaborative and multi-stakeholders to contribute to the discussion to build a momentum for a healthy planet for the prosperity of all. Having said that, I would like to appreciate the initiative of the PT-PLN to convene this very important event today, which is very timely to remind us that we have to collectively join the global effort to increase of the global temperature at 1.5 degrees Celsius. The event and the presence of distinguished colleagues and all participants reflect participation of business sector to strengthen the effort at the national levels. Paris Agreement well acknowledged the role of non-party stakeholders. In this regard, include the private sector, which also include the subnational government, business sector, including university, financial institutions, NGOs, and communities. I believe these endeavors could inspire others to improve the awareness of urgency to protect the earth for all of us and generations to come. Let's keep collaborate to enhance our ambition to ensure that our target, particularly in reducing greenhouse gas emission and strengthen the climate resilience, will be realized. I thank you very much and I wish you a very fruitful discussion. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Ibu Laksmi. So both forestry and also power sector are important to reduce greenhouse gas emission. Now, to the most anticipated agenda for today, it's the MOU signing between PLN and Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade Australia, or DFAT, on the development of climate change management study, and also there is a MOU ceremony between PLN and Energy Academy Indonesia, or ECADIN, on research, capacity building, and mobilizing in supporting Indonesia's net zero emission targets. The first MOU signing is going to be between the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, or DFAT, and also PT PLN Persero. So in this moment, we would like to invite Bapak Yusuf Didi Setiarto as the Director of Human Capital Management PT PLN Persero, and also Mr. Tim Stapleton, Minister Counselor Economic Affairs of Australian Embassy in Indonesia, to sign the MOU. And we also invite Pak Darmawan Prasodjo as the CEO of PLN to the stage to witness the signing process. Didi and also Mr. Stapleton kindly proceed with the signing of the MOU. This corporation is expected to support the development of a comprehensive climate strategy on meeting the PLN's sustainability targets. Now, let's take a picture to capture this special occasion. The cue is on me. 3, 2, 1, smile. Perfect. Thank you very much, Pak Didi and Mr. Stapleton.
And now we would like to kindly request Bapak Yusuf Didi Setiarto as the Director of Human Capital Management PLN to stay on the stage. And also I would like to invite Ibu Desti Alcano, founder of ECADIN, to the stage for an MOU signing between PLN and ECADIN. And also Pak Darmawan Prasodjo, CEO of PLN, to witness the signing process. Okay, now the second MOU signing is between the Energy Academy Indonesia, or ECADIN, and PLN. In this partnership, PLN is collaborating with ECADIN in research, capability building, and mobilizing activities to support Indonesia's net zero emission targets. Okay, Ibu Desti and also Pak Yusuf Didi Setiarto, if you're done with the document, please show it on the camera and let's take a pic together. Cue on me. 3, 2, 1. Give the best smile. Okay, thank you for all the panelists, and please stay on the stage because we will be conducting a photo session for all the panelists, Fania.
So we would like to invite again to Mr. Tim Stapleton and all keynote speakers, to Bapak Abdi Mustakim, Bapak Dadan Kusdiana, and also Ibu Laksmi Dhewanthi to the stage for the photo session. Our team here will help to capture the photo, and the cue is on me. If you are ready, 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, maybe once again with thumb up.
With thumb up, yeah. And also the very, very, very good smile. Okay. Let's take a picture. 3, 2, 1, cheers. Okay, Dan, thank you very much once again for all the keynote speakers. And before we entering the main agenda, let's watch a short video on the PLN carbon neutral roadmap.
The Indonesian government has significantly committed to reducing carbon emissions through nationally determined contribution targets by 2030 and net zero emissions by 2060.
PLN is mobilizing its resources, manpower, knowledge, experience, skills, and capital. We are ready to support the government to provide a better living space for future generations.
The strategic initiatives have been studied in the National Electricity Supply Business Plan RUPTL 2021 to 2030, which is the greenest electricity business plan in Indonesia's history.
We started by converting fossil-based diesel power plants in remote areas to be based on renewable energy, expanding the biomass co-firing programs to partially replace fossil fuels. We eliminate new plants to build coal-fired power plants. Even in 2040, more than 11 gigawatts of coal-fired power plants will be retired, replaced by renewable energy such as solar, wind, and hydropower.
Increasing the capacity of renewable energy power plants is the main strategy of achieving emissions reduction targets.
Innovation is the key for PLN to lead energy transitions. We develop more efficient technology and more effective environmentally friendly solutions.
By providing more renewable energy upstream, at the same time, PLN develops a renewable energy ecosystem on the downstream side.
This is a great chance. We need a breakthrough to build new ecosystem. Electric-based transportation, electric charging stations in public places, tariff incentive for home charging, even digital platforms that make life easier for customers. The renewable energy certificate that we provide are increasingly in demand. Meanwhile, electrifying agriculture and marine can drive productivity in agriculture and fishery sectors.
PLN has started small steps to convert LPG-fueled stoves into electricity-based ones, thereby reducing imported-based energy and increasing domestic-based energy as a contribution to national energy sovereignty.
This is PLN way to contribute to the next generation.
Ladies and gentlemen, there will be an attendance form posted on the chat room in Zoom and also a live chat section on YouTube. So please fill in the attendance form.
Yeah, and you will receive an e-certificate for this international webinar participation. The webinar presentation materials will also be sent to your email. And this webinar is also live streamed via YouTube channel ECADIN and remains there after this event finished. In addition, there will be a door prize to participants by the end of the event. How to get the door prize, Fania?
Okay, so listen up. Here is how to get the chance to win the prize with total 5 million rupiah.
Let's me join for this competition.
Oh, you cannot.
Oh my God.
So, who's gonna win the prize? It's the participants with the most interesting questions and posting Instagram story during the event.
So you have to post the story during this event and post into your Instagram account.
Yeah.
How many prizes I get if I try to join this competition?
So, for each of prize category, for the first winner, is 500,000 rupiah. The second winner is 450,000 rupiah. The third winner, 300,000 rupiah. And the rest of 5 participants going to have 250,000 rupiah.
And don't forget to upload your IG story and mention @PLN_ID at Energy Academy Indonesia _ and also SRE Indonesia. Once again, yeah?
Once again, you have to mention at PLN_ID, at Energy Academy Indonesia _ and also at SRE Indonesia.
Okay.
And the winners will be announced at the end of the event.
Okay, this is like, you know, THR?
Yeah, for the Hari Raya, right?
Yes, Hari Raya.
So don't miss it.
Don't miss it. And now we proceed to our main agenda. The first session is of our webinar, and this session will share and discuss interesting topics in green lifestyle with renewable energy certificate, carbon credit, and electric vehicle. Mrs. Kamia Handayani, Vice President Climate Change and Safeguard PT PLN Persero, will moderate this exciting session.
So Mrs. Handayani completed her PhD degree in Energy and Climate Change at the University of Twente in 2019, and then she continues her affiliation with the university as a guest researcher since then. In June 2020, she was selected as a research fellow of the 4TU Resilience Engineering, the Dutch Knowledge Center in Resilience Engineering of the 4 Universities of Technology in Netherlands. So, ladies and gentlemen, to begin the first session of our international webinar, we are pleased to welcome Mrs. Kamia. So please, the time is yours, Bu Kamia.
Thank you, Tania and Theo. Hello and welcome everyone to the first sessions of this webinar. The Earth is warming. What does it mean? According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change adversely impacts on terrestrial, freshwater, and ocean ecosystems on a global scale. The good news is we are seeing increased collaborations between countries, cities, companies, and communities towards net zero emissions by around mid-century. So how can we, as individuals or as organizations, become a part of the global movement on tackling climate change? There are many ways. We have seen from the video of the PLN carbon neutral, there are initiatives on the supply side and also initiatives of decarbonizations on the downstream side. So in these sessions, we will hear from 3 distinguished speakers some initiatives that support the decarbonizations on the demand side of the electricity sector, namely renewable energy certificates, carbon credits, and electric vehicles. I'm pleased to introduce the 3 speakers who are joining with us today. The first speaker is Mr. Agam Subarkah. He is representing the Clean Energy Investment Accelerator Indonesia. And we also have Ms. Ladaporn Khunikakorn, the Regional Director South Asia of South Pole. And we also have Mr. Gilles Pascual. He is the leader of EY Asian Power and Utilities. Welcome all speakers, and thank you very much for being here with us today. Each speaker will talk for around 10 minutes, and participants are invited to raise questions in the Zoom and YouTube chat and any time during the speakers' presentations. After the 3 speakers completed their presentations, we will proceed with the discussion sessions based on the questions raised to each presenter. So now, without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Agam Subarkah to kick off our discussion today. Mr. Agam Subarkah represents Clean Energy Investment Accelerator. He is the Senior Program Lead for Corporate Energy and Governance at World Resource Institute Indonesia. In 2020, he received WRI Top Outcomes Award for his involvement in ensuring that Indonesia take important steps towards phasing out coal and enabling the renewable energy transitions. Mr. Subarkah, 10 minutes is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Kamia. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Agam Subarkah. I'm the Senior Lead Program at the WRI Indonesia and co-lead at the CIA Indonesia. So thank you for PLN hosting this program. Can I share my slide? First of all, regarding the the Clean Investment Accelerator, we are the public-private initiative that consists of the three organizations, the WRA Indonesia, the Ultra Partners, and NREL. We are established in the 2016 and having efforts in the three main emerging markets, which are the Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, Mexico, and Colombia. So the CIA itself is a non-profit organization. We've been supported by our various donors and then the international philanthropists. Slide. So the CIA itself happened by the global initiative. That is, we already know there is a RIBA, RE 100, Science-Based Target, and UNFCCC Fashion Charter. So under the international initiative, there are a lot of companies already committed with the ambitious target. For example, the 100% of renewable energy in the certain year, and then the net zero commitment for certain years. So under this large initiative, we are combining this voice of the companies, and then we brought up to Indonesia supply chains. Next slide. So yeah, this is the initiative, and then next slide. So the CIA itself, we are bridging the voice from this company, and then we already have coalitions from the demand side, and then as we know from the Indonesia, we already know that the corporate and industrial buyers as the highest demand or highest electricity customer in Indonesia to support the energy transitions. So with that approach, we voiced out our initiative, and we create a demand aggregation from the corporation, and then enable the corporate procurement option for them. Next slide. So next slide, I already talked about this. Next slide. Yeah, this is the demand of the projection of the demand from the energy and industrial and commercial sectors in Indonesia. Next slide. So in our coalition right now, there are more than 40 companies from the multinational and the national level. And then we have more than 78 supply chain partners. And then there are 5 special economic zones. Since 2018, we already have a public-private dialogue, and we also have the collaboration with the PLN on the development of the green products. We also have several capacity building and training, as well as public-private dialogue with the governments. Next slide. So from the renewable energy companies, there are several procurement options that can be obtained. This is the data from the RE 100. So there is a first one, the unbundled REC purchasers. There is a contract with the supplier, PPA, self-generation, and on-site installation owned by the suppliers. Next slide. So today I'm speaking on the lifestyle of the renewable energy certificate. So the renewable energy certificate itself is a complementary to all the corporate renewable energy options. As we know that the REC itself can be used, for example, in the green pricing for the bundled with the current electricity, or on the green tariff for the long-term commitment, and then using for the prevailing and etc. So the REC is a certificate that shows that you are using the renewable energy in your supply chain or in facilities. Next slide. So what is the renewable energy certificate exactly? Next. So So for the renewable energy generations, for anything renewable energy generations, it can generate not only the electricity, but also the attribute of the energy. So the concept itself is that the electricity going to the grid, but the attribute of the renewable energy can be registered into the tracking system. And then the tracking system will verify the renewable energy use, and there will be like a specific number. And then this number can be used to claim that you are having or using the renewable energy. So for the global commitments, so the tracking system need to use the international standards, and then these standards is to prevent there is a double claiming, double selling, and then double using. Next slide. So one REC or one renewable energy certificate is represent 1 megawatt hours of the use of the renewable energy. And then the value itself is from the customers. There is a certain demand. For example, the age of the generations. They usually of the company need to have the new renewable energy certificate from the new renewable energy generations to add in their country, or even the requirement of the location. For example, some of the companies or industries need to have in the same grid of the generation, so they can claim that the REC is valid, and etc. Next slide. So there are two difference of the type of the markets, the compliance market and the voluntary market. So in the compliance market, they usually have the RPS or renewable or energy renewable portfolio standard system. So I think that in Indonesia right now there is still REC from the PLN, and maybe in the future, if there is a obligation to or the commitment from the companies to use the renewable energy, they can use the REC for claim the renewable energy generations. And there is a voluntary market, and there are two types of the REC, which are the bundled and the unbundled. So the bundled is bundling with the electricity, so you can pay monthly, and then the unbundled is the not bundling with the electricity. Next slide. So the good news is PLN already in collaboration with the CIA and APX. APX is the international recognized tracking system that have international standard and establish the renewable energy certificate. This renewable energy certificate already launched 2 years ago, and then with this certificate, the demand or the corporate and industry and even the household can claim that they can use or support the renewable energy generations. Next slide. So this is how it's working. So there are a renewable energy power plant that generates the electricity and then the attribute of the renewable energy. The attribute will be verified by the APX or Tigers, and then the APX will generate the certificate, and then the certificate itself can come or can be claimed by the customers. Next slide. So there are two types of the customers. So there are retail customers and the enterprise customers. Next slide. And this is my last slide, and we can go deep dive on the Q&A question. So the PLN REC have received an award from the Renewable Energy Market Asia because it has a credibility, and then it has a standards for the international standard that can be claimed internationally. And also this REC can support the renewable energy development when the result or the price of the REC can substitute towards the renewable energy generations. I think that's all, Mbak Kamia. I'm back to you. Thank you so much.
Presentations on renewable energy certificate. It is very exciting to hear the updates on how this green product was developed by PLN and also CIA in collaboration with CIA. Okay, now let's move to the next speaker. I would like to invite Ms. Ladaporn Khunikakorn to the screen. Ms. Khunikakorn is the Regional Director, Southeast Asia of South Pole. She has over 15 years experience in GHG mitigations project development in Southeast Asia. At South Pole, she is leading multiple location teams and manages project pipelines in the Asian region. Ms. Khunikakorn, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kamir. Good afternoon to all participants. It is my pleasure to be here at this event. So just give you a little bit background on South Pole is that we are the sustainability solution provider focusing on the climate change topic. So we work with multiple stakeholders in order to ensure that we would be able to fight for climate change. That is our main purpose. And so our work that we have been in this business since 2006, 2007, we've been developing multiple types of the projects around the world. So those are our impacts, our work that we have been doing so far for the past 15 years. So, and we have more than, right now, I think we have more than 30 offices around the world, including the representative offices. Yeah, one of the key offices is also located here in Jakarta. So get back to the topic that we are going to talk about, which is about the green lifestyle and with the carbon credit. I think this is very interesting topic, and thank you so much for giving me a chance to talk about this topic, because right now it is very important that we really have to focus on the issue on climate change because of the greenhouse gas emission blanket around it happening to our Earth, our planet, and we all have been trapped by the sun heat. So that's why this leads to the global warming and the climate issue, and it is very important now that the world, we really have to focus on this because the world now is warming faster than before. So it is important we still have to take a look on the scientific based information and data and to be aware on what's going on and what would happen in the future. So that's why even if we have to remind ourselves on the importance of the Earth Day, which is today. So let's take a look into how we are going to be part of the climate fighting, because from the individual part, it is important for that we really have to look into our daily life on what we are doing. So if you think about the carbon emission in our daily life activity, it could start from when we wake up in the morning, when we are going out to work. So even if we are sitting now, we already emit a lot of emission because of the power consumption. But if you think about the travel, you could see that even you drive, you take a taxi, or you take all kind of the transportation. Those are the cause of the emission that you also have to think about it. But not just only that, even you eat, even you do shopping. So all kind of like our daily activity like become the part of the carbon emission. Imagine if you are about to take your own holiday. So if you take your holiday, meaning that you will have to think about how to travel, right? You could go to travel with your family by taking a car with your husband and wife, or you could go with your friends. If you could walk, yeah, it's going to be fantastic because by walking, you will not create any emissions. If you take taxi, then you may have to think about whether the vehicle is the fossil fuel combustion system or is it EV system? If it's an EV system, meaning that you already support this topic because you spend less energy to do the travel. But part of your travel activity involved with taking a boat, then you still have to see whether the boat install any kind of like fossil combustion engine or not. This is something that you still have to look into. And even biking, if the biking happened in your activity, meaning that, oh, of course, you will not generate any emission because the energy coming from yourself, right? So that's why it's important that you still have to look into what you've been doing in our everyday lives when you're taking a holiday, when you are going to work. So that's why one of the important things is that even you try to spend some time or spend your money, it's also important that you should spend it locally. Ensure that you do shopping locally. Why? Meaning that you can also reduce the transport emission because of the logistic system. Eating with the local product, eating with the local smallholder, in this way you also distribute your own money, your own expense to the other as well. So that's why this is, I think even if this is a little thing, but it's also important for everyone here to consider this topic. Because through those activity, you already consider that what would be carbon footprint from your own daily life. And then later on, whatever activity that you can reduce the emission reduction by yourself, that's gonna be incredible. That is the very fantastic. However, but beyond that, beyond the carbon footprint that you won't be able to do that, there will be another one way that you could support the program or support the activity that can reduce the mitigation activity. So that's why the role of the carbon credits comes in order to answer this question, because to reduce the emission reduction activity cannot be just only one or another. It's for everyone. I just want to touch upon on the carbon credit or the emission reduction project. Carbon credit is being generated by the mitigation activity where it can reduce greenhouse gas, or it could sequester or remove the carbon dioxide from the emission. So whatever kind of mitigation activity that can reduce those greenhouse gas, it can be claimed as a carbon credit. And to claim as a carbon credit, you still need to certify the credit or certify the project through the international carbon standard, where it's being recognized by the many parties. So that's why it is important that when you go through your carbon footprint and go through that, and if you want to offset the emission that you created, so carbon credit is one way that you could also mitigate this part. And because of the South Pole, we have been working with the PLN company for a long time. So that's why we are part of the great journey to support each other to develop the project. And one of the great projects that we have been doing is those are Renewable hydropower project and the Musi hydropower project. Because to develop those projects, it does not just only generate the emission reduction, but the project also create the additional benefit that related to SDG, because this is very important to point out that the mitigation activity also helping creating the new job, helping accessing the clean energy technology, and also build up the community infrastructure where it can also support local activity. So those are the key points which is beyond the emission reduction of the project. So that's why this is just a simple activity that I try to give an example and see whether when you do your own activity in your own daily life, what kind of like emission that you have created and what kind of activity you could offset. In my view, so I think it's important for all of us that we really have to think about this topic, because we are all responsible for this climate change. So so that's why it is necessary for us to look into this. So please be responsible for your own action. Be responsible for your own emission. So with all of our support and our ambition, I believe that we will be able to reach the net zero target soon. So we can save our world, our planet together. Over to you, Ms. Kamya.
Thank you very much, Ms. Khunikakorn. We are all accountable of our actions. That is a very inspiring presentation. So from your presentations, we can understand that all of our daily activities is actually contributing to GHG emissions. And at the end, when we already do our effort to reduce our emission as much as possible, and we still have our carbon footprint, then we can always do the carbon offset by buying carbon credit. Thank you very much. Now we move to our next speaker. I would like to invite Mr. Gilles Pascual to the stage. Mr. Pascual is the leader of EY, Asian Power and Utilities in ASEAN, and he leads the climate strategy and energy transition activities of EY in ASEAN. He has 24 years of experience in the Asian market as a banker and also as a consultant. Mr. Pascual, the screen is yours. Mrs. Pascual, could you unmute your speaker? We cannot hear your voice, so could you check if you already unmute your speaker?
Can you hear me, Ibu Kamya?
Okay.
Can you hear me now, Ibu Kamya?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Sorry about that. Well, let's see how we can reduce our carbon footprint through the use of electric vehicles. So, first of all, there are four main stakeholders that are driving development of decarbonization efforts. Regulation, so governments, through the use of various levers, can force corporates to decarbonize. Investors, whether it's your stockholders or whether it's your lenders, whether you want to issue a bond or whether you want to borrow money from banks, increasingly those stakeholders will ask you to decarbonize. Of course, your consumers and your value chain, your suppliers or your consumer, and last but not least, your employees, which are increasingly asking to work, desire for a purpose. Now, if we look at the transportation sector globally, it represents about 11% of CO2 emissions. The first is the electricity sector, and then you have buildings, industry, and transport. So it's the fourth largest CO2 emissions. That's globally. Now, in Indonesia, the picture is slightly different, with the land use change and forestry and agriculture being the largest emitter of CO2. Transportation is the fourth largest, electricity is the second largest at 14%, and transport is about the same at 9% of total emissions. So when we think about decarbonizing the economy, we have to decarbonize transport. And in the case of Indonesia, it's particularly interesting that Indonesia is the largest automotive market in Southeast Asia. And that's, of course, thanks to the size and the population of Indonesia. But it's also the second largest car manufacturer in Southeast Asia, behind Thailand. So when we think about the potential of electric vehicles, the total ecosystem, for Indonesia, there are massive opportunities for the public sector, the government, and the private sector in terms of new business opportunities, whether it's the manufacturing of electric vehicles, the manufacturing of batteries, the city planning to reinvent the way we are planning cities, or for the private sector, investment in charging, the fleet transition, technology solution, and so on and so forth. So the government has high ambition for electric vehicles. I think we've heard from the keynote speakers earlier, and the market is still nascent, and that's expected for a new market. So there is a roadmap that the government has published that starts with a 2021 to 2030 plan, with some incentives, some lower import duty, some preferential tariffs, and tax incentives. But the market is still nascent, and that's perfectly understood. If we take a step back and look at the investments and partnerships are being announced. So you have international car manufacturers that have announced plans to manufacture EVs in Indonesia. And you have partnerships that are being forged between car manufacturers or battery provider together with domestic transportation champions. So the transition is starting to happen. And if we take a step back and look at what is happening globally, this is on the left, the chart of the sales of international combustion engine versus electric vehicle. And what you can see is that this is the decade when we are shifting from the combustion engine to electric vehicle. The forecasts show that by 2032, the electric vehicle sales will outstrip all the other combustion engines. So this is really the decade where the transition is happening. International combustion engine will disappear before 2050. And that's driven by a mix of regulation. Governments are implementing a number of regulations to promote the development of electric vehicles, and also the consumer sentiments, where people more and more are considering the purchase of electric vehicles. And if you look at the largest three markets, the EU, US, and China, between 2019 and 2020, you see that the sale of combustion engine has reduced by 18%. And at the same time, the sale of electric vehicles increased by 46%. And this is accelerating if you look at 2020, with between the first half and the full, 150% increase. So that's just an illustration of the transition to electric vehicles. Now, there are 6 fundamental drivers that are underpinning the acceleration of EVs across the globe. Of course, from the regulatory side, emissions rules. The tightening of emissions rules are, ultimately forcing the switch from combustion engine to EVs. And there are, in some countries, a full ban on combustion engines. This is happening in the US, this is happening in China, and this is happening in some city around the globe. The electrification strategy of the manufacturers themselves, of course, consumers' perception, more and more people are interested and want electric vehicles. Investments is being made in charging infrastructure, chicken and egg. We need the infrastructure to develop in order for the transition to EVs to happen. And finally, last but not least, the technological advancement that are driving down the costs and make an EV a more economically viable proposition to the consumer. Now, industry stakeholders feel that there are, 5 main enablers that must be in place to smooth the transition to e-mobility. First is the cohesive regulation, an alignment of the rollout of infrastructure versus the grid. An EV is only green if the grid is green. So when we look at Indonesia, the rollout of electric vehicle must happen together with the greening of the grid. And we know that in Indonesia, the grid is about 15% renewables today. So as PLN decarbonize the grid, the transition to EVs will really be green. We need new funding models for the deployment of EVs because the charging infrastructure costs money. We need the supply chain to be aligned, the availability of EVs to match the demand. We need the physical infrastructure, the alignment of the charging infrastructure to the grid and the energy system, and we need proper digital interface. These are the 5 main enablers to the transition. Now, interestingly, in 2022, there are some decelerators of the EV transition that we need to keep an eye on. Inflation, uncertainty, battery price increases, the raw material prices is increasing. So one of the main battery manufacturers has raised prices at the end of last year by 20%. There is a tightening of government policy, the quantitative easing. we have had a lot of supply chain constraints, and in particular, shortage of semiconductor facility. And of course, the last item, which you're all aware, which is the geopolitical uncertainty. So, in this particular year, there might be a decelerator of the EV transition. Now, if we look at the consumer behavior, the main driver, the top motivator for consumer is the environment. 49% of respondents to an EY study. Monetary incentives, these are the tax rebates for the acquisition of an electric vehicle, the range of EVs, the charging infrastructure. And the key, on the flip side, the cost of ownership is a major deterrent. So as the technology matures, as the prices decrease, we can expect more and more adoption of EVs. Now, just a quick note on two-wheelers, on electric motorbike, which I think is particularly interesting in the case of Indonesia, especially when we look at the grid, when we say it's 14% renewable electricity in Indonesia, that's on average. But there are particular parts of Indonesia and particular islands, and I think we've heard the CEO of PLN state earlier about the replacement of diesel engine with hybrid. There are small parts of Indonesia and small islands that are already decarbonized to a very large extent, where electric vehicles and two-wheelers makes perfect sense. So my view is that electric motorbikes will happen a lot faster in Indonesia. And the key drivers are the standardization of swappable batteries, the increased investments by mobility startups, and we have a few in Indonesia, the lower maintenance cost of electric motorbikes, and the increased range. And perhaps the last slide to leave with you, very often we refer to Norway as a case study where the stable and the supportive policy coupled with the rising consumer demand has led to a significant adoption of electric vehicles over the last 5 to 6 years. Today, electric vehicles in Norway make up 78% of overall car sales. And that's massive. And that's an example of a very quick transition. So to conclude, the decarbonizing transportation definitely goes hand in hand with decarbonizing the grid. Indonesia is incredibly well placed because of the size of its manufacturing business and the size of its market. And this is the decade where the decarbonization of transport will happen. Thank you. Back to you, Ibu Kamia.
Thank you, Mr. Pascal. It is a very encouraging presentations regarding the development of electric vehicles. Some key takeaways from your presentation is that we need to decarbonize the transportation sector in order to make the decarbonization happens. And the decarbonization of power sector has to be aligned with this decarbonizations in the transportation sector. And there will be more EV by 2030 compared to ICE vehicle. And also very interesting that in small islands, we can actually already decarbonize the transportation sector faster, with the two-wheelers. So thank you very much, Mr. Pascal. Now we are entering the discussions sessions. We have collected questions from the participants. So the first question is addressed to Mr. Agam Subarkah. The question is, as REC depend on the RE capacity and it is limited, is it possible if a company which already had an REC willing to sell its REC to other company or new participants, like an aftermarket trading? Any chance it could be happen? Any best practice abroad? Thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Kamia. So in REC, there are two main agenda. So no main concept. The first one is a claim, and the second one is retirement. So if the company buy the REC and then they want to claim that they have or use the renewable energy in their electricity, so they need to purchase it and then retire on behalf of themselves. But in other market, there is a possibility that company want to sell to others, but if they sell to others, it means that they don't retire or they don't use their own renewable energy generation. So the REC is a concept of the claiming. So if you want to claim, so you buy the REC and then retire on your behalf. But if you want to sell, so you cannot claim it. So it is a form of the claim of the renewable energy. And then in my knowledge that the company for the, have the target of the, for example, 100% renewable energy, they don't want to sell it to others. So they want to retire on their behalf. Thank you, Kamia. Hope it helps.
So most companies choose to retire it for their own claim instead of selling it back to other parties. All right, so now we have also another questions to Ms. Ladaporn Khunikakorn. The question is, how does South Pole encourage awareness through education and literacy to public regarding climate change, considering that there are still many various activities that use non-renewable energy, which is high in carbon emissions, considering that renewable energy is still very expensive and limited. So what is the South Pole strategy in implementing an effective and comprehensive carbon credit in order to minimize the carbon footprint and accelerate net zero?
Thank you so much for the question. I think this is the very important point that we at South Pole, we've been developing the mitigation activity for the past 15 years. And we've seen a lot of the challenging, because to build up the mitigation activity, you cannot just only do it all alone. You need to ensure that you have the right partnership, the right mitigation activity to ensure that we can claim as a carbon credit. However, it's not just only to certify the projects as a carbon credit, because beyond the benefit of mitigation activity that I have mentioned, we still have to draw out what are the core benefits or what are the additional benefit from the project's activity where we can present it to the public sector. Because this is very important point, because we have to deal with a lot of issue, a lot of situation where we have to ensure that we would be able to reflect the actual information. And we have to also demonstrate that the carbon credit is real, the carbon credit, it would be able to be credible. So that's why in terms of the create the awareness, it's not just only, we do starting from our internal team, where we also ensure that everybody understand the same mission, where actually we also share the same passion that we want to fight for climate change. But from ourselves, through the external party, we believe that when we are clear at our message, we would be able to convey it to the external stakeholder or to the public sector. So that's why we try to participate with all kinds of like climate change event, and we would be able to ensure that what we are doing is transparent. It would be able to actually bring the real benefit, bring the real activity where we can ensure that we actually can fight for climate change. Yeah, over to you, Ms. Kavya.
Right, thank you so much. So in order to make people believe and sure to use the carbon credit, you have to inform them that the carbon credit is credible and the environmental integrity is guaranteed. And you also participate in various events on raising climate change awareness. Thank you so much for the answer. So now we are moving to the other questions. It is addressed to Mr. Gilles Pascual. The question is, given Indonesia's potentials in the automotive market is very large, how to make the automotive market based on new and renewable energy such as electricity cheap and at an affordable price, suitable to the income of the Indonesian people, given the average income of capita in Indonesia is lower to middle?
Absolutely. It's not easy to compare international markets to Indonesia, and we have to take into account the local cost of living. So if you look at the number one deterrent to the ownership of EVs, it's the cost. The number one objective is the benefit to the environment. So first of all, as the grid is decarbonized, there will be a real benefit of decarbonizing the transport. Cost. If you look at the forecast of electric vehicle, the consensus is by 2030, an electric vehicle will be the same price as an internal combustion engine. So if we like the transition in Indonesia to happen faster, it is possible through the use of various tax incentives, rebates, and this is government policy. So if the government wants the transition to happen faster, there are some levers, some government incentives that can be put in place in order to accelerate transition. But more generally, the consensus is by 2030, from a pure cost perspective, it will make more sense to buy an electric vehicle. So the transition will happen naturally at some point, including in Indonesia. We could do it faster through government policy that enables the transition.
By itself, because of the fuel price will increase, by 2030, it's actually the electric vehicle will be much cheaper. And with the intervention from the government policy, it will make the electric vehicle become cheaper in the fast rate. So thank you so much, Mr. Pascal, and also I thank to all the distinguished speakers, because we have come to the end of our first sessions of the webinar. And I would like to thank all the speakers and also all the participants who has been very actively participated in these first sessions of the webinar. So now I will have to hand over the next agendas to MC, Fania and Theo.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bu Kamia, for such an interesting and fruitful session. Wow. Hopefully the REC, carbon credit, and also electric vehicle can accelerate decarbonization in Indonesia.
Once again, thank you so much, Bu Kamia. And now, ladies and gentlemen, before we continue to the next agenda, please enjoy the video on renewable energy certificate from PT PLN Persero.
PT PLN Persero is committed to creating a more friendly climate for the Earth. For this reason, PLN has prepared a comprehensive roadmap to achieve Indonesia's climate commitments and actions, or the Nationally Determined Contribution, or NDC, in 2030, and to pursue the carbon neutral 2060 target while maintaining business growth. The roadmap will result in emission reduction of 900 million tons of CO2 equivalent by 2060. This roadmap consists of 13 initiatives up to 2060.
Perubahan iklim adalah ancaman besar bagi kemakmuran dan pembangunan global. Solidaritas, kemitraan, kerjasama, kolaborasi global merupakan kunci. Sektor yang semula menyumbang 60% emisi Indonesia akan mencapai carbon net sink selambatnya tahun 2030. Penyediaan pendanaan iklim dengan mitra negara maju merupakan game changer dalam aksi mitigasi dan adaptasi perubahan iklim di negara-negara berkembang. Indonesia akan dapat berkontribusi lebih cepat bagi net zero emission dunia.
Countries must revisit their national climate plans and policies, not every 5 years, every year, every moment, until keeping to 1.5 degrees is assured, until subsidies to fossil fuels end, until there is a price on carbon, until coal is phased out.
As for Indonesia, the concept of using renewable energy through a renewable energy certificate, or REC, is starting to roll. The renewable energy contract will consist of the provision of REC, accompanying its megawatt of electricity supply from PLN to its partner. This provides an opportunity for partners and you to participate directly in the process of realizing a greener and more sustainable environment. Taking care of the Earth's sustainability can't be done alone. We have to do it together daily because every step counts for the future generation.
Now we are ready to start the second session of our seminar today, where we already have awesome and amazing modern Kartinis here as our panelists. Kartini is a figure and pioneer of women empowerment in our country. In this session, our panelists will share and discuss women empowerment, particularly related to energy transition and power system transformation. This session will be moderated by Ms. Syafa Radita Setioputri from SRE Women.
Syafa Radita Setioputri is a final year undergraduate student from the University of Gajah Mada, Yogyakarta, majoring in public policy and management. She actively participates in social volunteering, which she is doing in 2020 in Malaysia. And her interest in sustainability and environmental issues escort her to become the second winner of the SDGs campaign in Asia 2021 by Asia Youth Speak Up Forum with the Korean National Committee for UN Habitat and actively make an impact with Society Renewable Energy Women or SRE Women as HR team leader. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Syafa.
Thank you, Kak Fania and Kak Theo. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Feel honored to be here. Welcome to the second session of this seminar, Invest in Our Planet, Green Ecosystem as an Investment in Future Earth. Today is very special since we are commemorating two big agendas, which are Earth Day as well as Kartini's Day on 21st of April. Happy Kartini's Day to all the extraordinary women. Specifically, to give the women's energy spirit, we will discuss about women empowerment and encouraging the energy transition with these two outstanding speakers who really represent the woman power. As the MC has mentioned before, I am Syafa Radita, representing Society of Renewable Energy Women, will be your moderator today. Maybe some of you haven't known it yet, as SRE Women is a community that accelerates gender equality and social inclusivity and renewable energy by empowering undergraduates and young professionals in Indonesia. I am also pleased to be here alongside with the distinguished speakers. Before we start, let's do the overview. The first panelist we have Ibu Cynthia Rusli. Thank you for being here, Ibu.
Thank you, Mbak Syafa. Good afternoon, everyone.
To reveal PLN strategies to empower women toward carbon neutrality. And the second panelist, we have Ms. Karin Watsak. Thank you for being here, Ms. Karin.
Thank you very much.
We'll highlight women's roles in the transformation of the global power system. The rules are still the same with the session 1. The speakers will have 10 minutes for the presentations. And I want a friendly reminder for all the speakers that we are already accommodating your presentations here, so you don't need to present your presentation. And before closing, we will have the discussion session. I also highly recommend you to actively participate in the discussion session, which I will later ask the question to the panelists. You can jump to the chat box on Zoom and YouTube. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the first panelist. Ibu Cynthia Rusli is the Finance and Risk Management Director in PLN Indonesia, starting her career in 1993 as a commissioning engineer for the thermal power generation project of PT PLN. Achieved her bachelor degree in University of Indonesia and received Master of Engineering Science for the University of South Wales, Master of Business Program Administration from Monash, and Master of Management from IPMI. The floor is yours, Ibu.
Thank you, Mbak Syafa. Very good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Also, my colleague Karin, the panelists today. May I get the presentation, please? Someone would help with the slide. Okay, so next, please. So basically, there are two topics I would like to convey in these 10 minutes. Just go quickly on what would be the context of energy transition within PLN, and also specific to the topic this afternoon is the women in PLN business. Next. So I think, as we have heard from our CEO this morning, and also to a certain extent from our HR director, Pak Didi, PLN is committed to achieve net zero emissions by 2060. So we have already launched the roadmap, the blueprint, last year, exactly May 2021. And this has been also translated into 10-year electricity development, which is already approved by the government, which basically we call it the green RUPTL, because there are a number of plan in renewable energy that will be put into the system by 2021 to 2030. And under this RUPTL 2021 to 2030, we will see that there has to be a push to deliver the infrastructure in renewable energy. It's basically to ensure that the nationally determined contributions commitment by 2030 can be achieved. And PLN, along with that plan, we have basically being assisted by multilateral and some other experts in defining our capabilities and also action plan to achieve and execute our carbon roadmap by 2060. And of course, to ensure that this can be executed, the capabilities of human resources is the key for the success. Both females and of course also the males, knowing that PLN is a male-dominated company, both have to have the same and equal opportunity to contribute to the development of infrastructure, and to ensure that also we can help contribute to the achievement of the net zero carbon by 2060. And in this context, I would explain probably a bit about what's the program for the PLN women, and at the last part, that's a bit what are the initiatives that we have been also engaged with some other institutions in the company. Next. So go to the energy transition. Next. I think this is just a context for those of you who've not been familiar with PLN. So we have the generation capacity, PLN and IPPs total about 63 gigawatt, and serving more than 80 million customers around the country with 24 billions of revenues. And, basically it's all over Indonesia with the electrification ratio, so almost 100%. So it's basically electrified almost most of the nations with the 270 million populations. And it's also spread over more than 17,000 islands, across the country. So this has been executed for the last 76 years. And there are so many development along the way, including up to the current situations where we have a condition with various capacity, generation capacity in the system, including the coal-fired power plants. Our current situation, the coal-fired power plants produce more than 60% of the total energy productions to electrify the country. So with that situations, of course, it is really a mandatory, and as a responsible company, we need to look into the strategy and how we can also help sustain the environment, for the next generations, and what the what the plan that needs to be put in place and executed. So I think we have heard from the previous speakers that it is no longer an issue or a debate that the climate change and the focus towards the environment is really a mandatory for everyone, including PLN. And specific to the situations with the carbon emission, for example, we have also got the information from the previous speakers, and here in the slide, next slide, I think this is just showing the trend, and this is also confirmed by various informations available, and we can see that with business as usual, with doing nothing, that would be something, the projections about 4.22 billion by 2060. So then we may need to do things properly. And specific to the PLN, I think next slide. We need to do quite a dramatic program with various initiatives. One of them are next slide, please. To become a clean power company, and has to be a sustainable, productions of electricity. So some of the programs that we have here list down 5 major changes required to achieve this net zero emissions by 2060 is putting big scale renewable energy with the battery energy storage system, interconnection system, and green industry cluster in remote area, distributed power generations through solar rooftop, battery storage, and smart grid, carbon capture and storage, early retirement of the coal-fired power plants through energy transition mechanism, as well as deployment of the new technologies, biomass and hydrogen. So those are 5 major programs that will be executed, within the roadmap of the net zero emissions by 2060. The detail of this would be seen in this next slide. I think most of you have already seen this here and there. No need to explain more. I think can go to the next slide. So those roadmap is basically also ensuring that PLN would help accelerate the commitments of the NDC by the country by 2060. And these are the detailed program and target that we have for each of the area with a certain, numerical quantitative target that we have. And some of them have been already put it into a year by year target, and have been also, we are installing a system to monitor the progress of each of the target. Next. So I think this is showing that we have the situation where unconditional reduction by 2030 and conditional before 2030. So this is more of a detailed program that we have out of the program by 2030. So I think that's probably setting the context of what we are going to do within 2030 and also up to 2060. There are still a number of homework from our side to ensure that the financing sources and also the support from the government and multilateral and bilateral to ensure each of the program can be executed timely and also can achieve all the target properly. So there are still under process, but at least we have, the high level program, the commitment, and also have started to develop internal capability to ensure that we are able to anticipate the program. So with this plan by 2060, we may need to also not only develop and prepare for the necessary implementation program, but also need to prepare the necessary human capital to execute the whole program, and particularly with regard to the women, as we focusing this time on the women empowerment. So we go into the next slide. That how would we see the woman sizing and the capability that is required for ensuring that we as a PLN woman can contribute to the big program for net zero carbon. Next slide. So we are we have been starting to identify the sizing capabilities for the next 5 to 10 years. How many new resources that needs to be hired, and what are the capabilities. The example of capabilities are carbon capture and storage, the renewable energy systems, the co-firing, the NCS, and the beyond kilowatt hour that are focusing on particularly with the renewable energy certificate and also some other renewable energy product development. So those are key capabilities examples that we may need to nurture within the company, or get some experts to be hired into the company. So with that, I think on top of that, we are also within PLN have developed a certain policy with regard to the woman empowerment and also gender mainstreaming in the company. As we also understand that the focus of the market towards the ESG, that also involve some sort of focus on the woman, equality or mainstreaming in the company is very crucial. Then we can, it's also good for us to share in the next slide that starting last year, we have already, more and more put support for women empowerment. So by 2021, our CEO have already issued a statement of support for the women empowerment principles. And this has been also followed by issuing a policy of anti-harassment, for example. And just yesterday, our CEO also issued a statement of corporate intent in the gender mainstreaming. So I think more and more policy framework that support gender and women empowerment in Indonesia, in PLN, have been put in place. And next is really what we are doing is to ensure that the implementations of the commitment to develop equal access and equal opportunity for all PLN women are in place in the company. Next slide. So I think why we are doing that, of course, it's no longer a debate that women diversity and empowerment of women is a key for a competitive edge of a company. So many research have been shown to that direction. So it's no longer an issue. So just leave that to the next slide. So we have a various women empowerment program in PLN. So we have the P4C program, empowering program with coaching and women capacity building, and also advanced community for women and some other things that we have. We do have a capacity building. We do have the sharing sessions, webinar, and ensuring that the awareness of the woman empowerment and gender equality and gender mainstreaming is something that is also becoming a top of the town in the company, and everyone in the company should also support the policy that is already committed by the management. Apart from that, next slide, we also share, next slide please, some cooperations with external institutions. So we have participated in high-level launch of the Global Power System Transformations in April 2021. And I think Karin would tell more about the GPST, and we have already also take part in the Glasgow event last year. And of course, this is going to be more and more programs to be put in place to ensure that the woman in power system transformations is something that they can also taken part by the PLN women employees. We also have a collaboration with USAID providing gender advocacy training for PLN employees. We call it the PLN Ignition Women Series, and also gender upskilling program in collaboration with ADB, Gender Equality Awareness Training Program. And also ADB has been in support for technical assistance to develop our gender mainstreaming policy, and of course also helping us along the way with the executions after we launched this policy yesterday. With the USAID, we will continue to work on various programs. We will send participants, women participants, to join the workforce gender equality accelerated program, and some other interesting program that is already now in the pipeline that we are going to push more. Together also with the GPST, some more interesting program that will be planned together. And we will also be enlarging our cooperations internationally and also with some domestic institutions to ensure that our women have exposed to the issue of the ESG, of the energy transitions, and some other transformations in the power system that needs to be anticipated by women in PLN. So I think that's probably the overview of what we have been doing. In summary, I can say that the management of PLN understands that out of 20% of women, of the employees of PLN, which comprises of women, we still have a bit of homework to ensure that this 20% can contribute more and more in the challenge of the PLN to become a more cleaner power company in the future. I think that's all for today, and looking forward for the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ibu, for the eye-awakening discussion. If I can summarize the exciting part, that PLN has already established the roadmap to the net zero emission by 2060. Also, PLN committed to SDGs number 5, which is gender equality, and also PLN creates a woman empowerment program, which poured into HEART, H-E-I-R-T. Wow, I think for me it's a delightful news that it's more clear. PLN always support gender equality, especially in this sector. Thank you so much, Ibu, once again. Due to the limited time, moving on to our next amazing speaker is Ms. Karin Watsak. Ms. Karin is a program manager for the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. She has more than 15 years contributing in energy analysis, policy, and project management. Her background also includes business management, international development, and work with Native American tribes. Let's straight away. The time is yours, Ms. Karin.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. If you can go ahead and load up the slides, we can take it from there. I'll just start off by saying it's been a real pleasure working with Ibu Cynthia. She's been a leader in the work with not just across the Global Power System Transformation Consortium launch, but also in our work in the space with women. So next slide. I'll start off just with a brief overview of the Global Power System Transformation Consortium, so the GPST. You can go to the next slide. The GPST is a consortium that's brought together with a focus on power system operators. And so we've got 6, and if you look in the center of the screen here, we've got an image that shows who the GPST is. And so 6 system operators around the globe started GPST with the goal to work together in order to be able to accomplish their decarbonization goals more strongly by collaborating than they could on their own. And in addition to system operators in our consortium, in the lower left of that triangle, you see 12 core technical institutions. And in the lower right, you see a representation of emerging economy system operators, so system operators around the globe. And so we work together as a consortium in order to be able to deliver progress on the decarbonization goals of each of the system operators who is participating in the consortium. And the way that we do that is through 5 different pillars of activity, with everything from research to workforce development to open tools. Next slide. Specifically, when it comes to different kinds of support that the GPST provides to system operators, there are examples such as grid integration solutions in roadmaps for control center modernization, under workforce development, specialized continuing education for system operators and specialized curriculum and training. With localized technology adoption, we work with expert input on national equipment performance and standards. And then under open tools, we have teams that are working to develop and implement open tools supporting planning and operation of high renewable energy grids. And those are customized in different systems around the world. Next slide. Here you can see the different countries where we're working around the globe. As in the first couple of years of GPST, we worked to build a lot of relationships. Right now we're working actively in 8 countries, and we have discussions going on with a number of other countries and regions to work in the future. And then we're also working with regional organizations on supporting technical communities of practice. Next slide. I wanted to share a little bit of detail about GPST's collaboration with PLN, and I think this really illustrates additional kinds of examples and work that we're doing in partnership with other system operators around the world. We've had a couple different projects focused on control room upgrades, and last year PLN worked with GPST experts from a team with representatives from NREL, EPRI, the power system operator in Texas and the power system operator in California, and Fraunhofer to develop plans for a new control center for the Java Bali grid. And we're now starting a new project that might be focused on Sulawesi. Next slide. GPST also has a very big focus on peer learning across our global system operator network. The idea of system operators working together is that one system operator can take advantage of the learning curve of another system operator. And with PLN, we're almost complete with a 10-part series of technical sharing sessions on topics such as the SCADA or EMS architecture, grid codes, and others. Next slide. I also wanted to mention another aspect of GPST. As I mentioned a second ago, we are working on open tools and data, and we collaborate directly with system operators around the world to develop those tools and to implement them in the circumstances of each of the system operators. And those support managing dispatch or increasing situational awareness. Next slide. And can you skip one more? Right now, as I mentioned, our next steps with the collaboration between GPST and PLN is to work together on control center upgrade roadmap for one particular technical category, and that might be in the Sulawesi area. And the idea there is to modernize system operator function and ensure that tools and models are integrated efficiently. And then, as Ms. Cynthia mentioned, we're also working to establish fellowship programs between PLN, our founding system operators, and research institutions in order to provide training and research. We are facilitating participation in fellowships just in a couple months later this year. Next slide. Now I wanted to talk a little bit more in detail about the Women in Power System Transformation programming that Ms. Cynthia mentioned earlier. This is really, you can go to the next slide. In the last year, it's been really exciting to see the growth of this new program area in GPST, which is focused on women in power system transformation. Next slide. What we're doing is working to develop comprehensive programming to advance women and to address gender issues. And we're starting this with a joint initiative with the U.S. Agency for International Development. And our goal here is to expand women's professional development and education and leadership opportunities. Next slide. I wanted to highlight the fact that I think for all of you young folks in the audience and the moderator and some of the other supporting presenters, and especially for early career women, I think this is a time of tremendous opportunity in the power sector and in renewable energy. The clean energy sector is changing and it's growing like never before. And there's so many different ways to get involved. And so I think it's very important to think about how critical women are and how critical it is that women are enabled to bring their own unique skills and experience to bear on these unprecedented pace of change and on the level of problem solving that we need to engage in. We heard earlier about the very strong commitments that are being made both by the the CFO of PLN, but also the ministers in Indonesia. And we need to bring, all brains on deck in order to be able to address these challenges and move forward as efficiently and reliably and cost effectively as possible to address our urgent global challenges. Next slide. Within the Women in Power System programming, our goals and objectives are to develop knowledge and skills on cutting edge technical topics, so related, of course, to variable integration and other aspects of power sector transformation and advanced system operation. We want to empower students, researchers, and practitioners to be able to lead this transformative change. And that can be through targeted personal agency. So some of the training activities and things that Ms. Cynthia mentioned, leadership and negotiation training. We're working to build a support network to expand women's access to professional opportunities and advancement within power sector institutions. And we're working with other partners who have specific gender-focused training and activities to address ingrained institutional barriers to the representation, advancement, and retention of women in the power sector, technical and leadership roles, which, as mentioned, have historically been dominated by men. Next slide. Lastly, I wanted to highlight our current activities. We have some graduate student internships that are taking place at GPST technical institutions. So we have, I think, 4 or 5 interns who are coming to the National Renewable Energy Lab next month. And then there are a number of interns also going to EPRI through GPST, and those are focused on women applicants. We have a university technical course package, and our workforce development pillar has developed these courses using female experts in power systems as the presenters so that the recipients of these technical courses at the university, graduate, or industry level will really be learning from women who are experts in their field. And we have professional fellowships, as I mentioned, one-on-one mentorship and support and networking opportunities. And then there are a couple different training programs focused on gender equality and women's empowerment through Johns Hopkins University and USAID. And so we're working to make those available broadly to women who are working in system operators in the power system. And it's really just been a huge pleasure working with Cynthia and other women leaders in this space. We've got some strategy sessions coming up, and we will have additional activities rolled out over the course of the next year. So please stay tuned for more information, and you can, if you're interested in joining GPST more broadly or finding out more, you can join us on our website through globalpst.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Karin, for the fruitful sessions. If I may summarize that GPST has already collaborated with PLN to increasing quantities of inverter-based resource. And moving on for the woman participation itself, the main objective is to encourage women to lead and fully take part in transforming and decarbonizing power systems. Advancing this gender equality could support economic and social empowerment of women around the globe. Therefore, GPST creates several activities based on the objectives such as internship, mentoring, training, professional fellowship, even technical course package. Thank you so much once again, Ms. Karin.
Thank you.
It is really fascinating how women participation actually impacts this society. Even though we still lack women's participation in Indonesia, but I believe after this session, really encourage us to contribute more to this sector. This is the part that the audience has been waiting for. A lot of interesting questions have entered, so I'm gonna go with the first one for Ibu Cynthia Rusli. What are the challenges that PLN will face in the near future for empowering women to support energy transitions? And what have women who work in PLN have achieved since the start of the empowerment program until now?
Okay, so I think the challenge is still the big issue is the capacity, the capabilities, and it's not only for the women but also for the men employee. So basically, because this new energy transition is coming into our face quite, in a speedy manner, and I think as we know that PLN is, sort of a bit of, I'm not saying rigid, but it's quite not that flexible enough to be agile to get the capacity built in a timely manner when we need the necessary resources with the necessary skills, right? So I have mentioned about some of the skill set that is needed to anticipate this energy transition and decarbonizations. So with that, of course, there are still homework for us to ensure the right program, to pick the right people, the right women and the right men to join the program, and also to collaborate with the necessary institutions such as the GPST. So we are very glad that GPST, has been with us for quite some time. It's not only helping in providing the program for capacity building, exchanging program on the job training, and etc. But also helping us to develop our advanced control centers in Jawa, Bali, which basically currently under development, to ensure that we have in Indonesia, we have a national control centers which are able to absorb the variable renewable energy into the system. So that's one of the examples how international collaborations would help us speeding up the readiness of PLN to anticipate the energy transitions. So specific to PLN women skill set development, it's not only with GPST, we are also enlarging our collaborations with some other institutions and some other donor countries. So that's probably still an issue with the capacity building. And the second questions on how to to be able to anticipate. What was the second question again?
What have women who work in PLN have achieved since the start of the empowerment program until now, Ibu?
Okay, so the Women Empowerment Program has started last year. So basically, the program, the Women Society program, has been started last year with the Women Empowerment. We call it the Sri Kandi PLN. So it's basically exactly 1 year ago. It is being created, and many programs that we have mentioned. I have mentioned in the slides. One is the creation of the awareness. It's not only for the same employees, the women employees, but also with the the management level. With the senior leaders, who are mostly men. So first, I can say that at least the awareness to support the woman empowerment in the company, is there. And second is providing or developing the necessary regulatory framework and policy framework within the company. So we have basically have succeeded in pushing the issuance of the gender mainstreaming policy, which is launched yesterday, and also anti-harassment policy within the company. I think there are also various initiatives that has started to build the awareness not only for the employee but also the committee within the Sri Kandi PLN. So basically, we are learning to get into what is the right and the best execution approach to push this forward, because we need the time, we need the speedy delivery of this. So I think starting from now, as we have already had the policy framework right, we are going to execute more and more for the program. Last year, we have a various program with the the trainings on the leadership, on the women equality issues, with the help of the ADB, with the USAID. Even we are pushing the training on the women in STEM, for example. And this year, we are going to push also women in power system training, and we have sent names for the exchange program to the California ISO, and there will be also a program for leadership in women, and also supporting the women gender mainstreaming in the company. Not only will be joined by the women, but also the the men employee that is going to be held soon. So I think the achievement so far, the awareness and the commitment that we get from the senior leaders and the policy that has been put in place. So this is only 1 year, so we may need to push more, from now on. Thank you.
So much, Ibu, for the answers. It can conclude that from last year, PLN already efforts to make the Sri Kandi PLN, and then already made several policy in it. And of course, the achievement for that program is the awareness itself, and the challenges in the near future is about the capacity building. Okay. Thank you so much, Ibu, for the answers. Hope it answered your questions. Due to the limited time, this is the final questions for Ms. Karin from Ahmad Murdani. So, Ms. Karin, I am coordinating power system dispatcher in West Java that will be the first control system managing floating PV operation in Indonesia, possible in 2023. Is it possible that our operators or dispatchers learn from our utilities that has already controlling or dispatching floating PV, as this type of power plant is new for us. How could GPST manage this? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. We, at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, we manage all of the work in collaboration with different countries in the GPST on top of doing the secretariat work. And so we have access to a lot of technical experts working in different subjects. And so I would be happy to make a connection. If the person who asked the question wants to reach out to me, I'd be happy to make a connection to other system operators who have successful experience and lessons learned with floating solar, because this is an emerging technology, but there are examples where it's been deployed around the world. So GPST would be happy to make that connection and share some of the lessons learned. And then if the system where that's being deployed wanted to work together on some kind of case study or additional lessons that you learn, share those with others who are still beginning to deploy floating solar, we'd be happy to foster that too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Karin. So, Ahmad, you are freely connect with Ms. Karin to discuss it more. And thank you so much, Ms. Karin, for the answers. I think that's all for the questions. Hope it answered. Thank you so much for your enthusiasm. I really hope with all the sessions we have, it can give more spirit for women to contribute. Before we closing this second session, I would like to convey my gratitude for all the speakers, audience, also PLN for the opportunity. Many thanks to Ibu Cynthia Rusli. Also many thanks to Ms. Karin Watsak for your time. Sorry if there are still many shortcomings. I hope we could meet in other occasions, but stay safe and healthy. I'm Safa. Back to you, Kavania and Kateo.
Hey,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Happy Cartoonist Day.
Yeah, so it's very interesting and also empowering to know that more and more opportunities coming for women in power sector.
Yes, equality gender is one of the important things now, yeah?
Of course it is.
Okay, Fania, ladies and gentlemen, we believe many participants today can wait for our next agenda, which is the announcement of the winners of the PLN's 2022 Earth Day Reels Campaign competition. But before we announce who is the winners, there's a video from ECADIN.
Climate change is upon us. Icebergs are melting, fires are raging, storms are brewing. We need action to reverse this trend, and it's become our responsibility to start taking action in order to save our planet.
Progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. Remember, the universe is not required to be in perfect harmony with human ambition.
Be simpler, be green, and be with us towards a more sustainable future.
Okay, Fania and ladies and gentlemen, ECADIN is run various programs through multidisciplinary studies, knowledge management, and stakeholders engagement to embrace a transformational approach aimed at unlocking potential to grow towards a sustainable future. And ECADIN also empowers Indonesia's women to take many roles in energy transition.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, as we have mentioned before, that to increase public awareness about the climate crisis, PLN in collaboration with the Society of Renewable Energy, or SRE, organized the Earth Day Reels Campaign competition. And we have received so many interesting videos, and we would like to thank you all for the participants for their great efforts in taking part in the Earth Day campaign entitled Invest in Our Planet. We believe that it was definitely not an easy job for our judges to choose who's the winners.
Yeah.
So without any further ado, may we announce the winner of PLN's 2022 Earth Day Reels campaign competition.
Take a deep breath. Okay, this is all the winners.
Yeah. So, do you see your names here?
No, I'm not.
Okay, hopefully one of you, yeah?
Yeah. Congratulations once again for all the winners, and thank you for all the participants who will join the Reels competition.
Yeah. Okay, so again, congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, before our event coming to an end, there are some videos from the Society of Renewable Energy, SRE. They run a number of programs in filling a gap between knowledge of Indonesia's young generation and Indonesia's target in renewable energy. So please enjoy the video from SRE.
Dalam mendukung net zero emission, PLN menghadirkan Renewable Energy Certificate.
Ternyata matahari bisa menjadi sumber energi alternatif loh, bisa diubah jadi energi listrik melalui panel surya.
Sampah plastik selalu menjadi ancaman bagi kehidupan. Dibutuhkan waktu sekitar 400 tahun, bahkan lebih dapat mengurainya.
You know, why?
Why is it?
Because this time I want to announce who will be the winners for the IG story competition. As we have mentioned before in the beginning, we select 10 participants with the most interesting IG story and the question and get the door prize. So are you ready for here the decision and who will get the door prize? And 1, 2, 3. Here is the name of the winner. Woo!
Congratulations for you who have been chosen as the winner of the door prize here.
Okay, this is our early THR.
Early THR before Hari Raya. Okay. Congratulations and thank you for your active participation in this event. So our committee will contact you soon for the further detail, yeah?
Yes. Fania, ladies and gentlemen, our event has finally come to an end. So again, as a reminder, don't forget to fill in the attendance form post on chatroom in Zoom and live chat on YouTube. And you will receive an e-certificate for this webinar participation through your email. The webinar presentation materials will also be sent to your email. And this webinar is live streamed as well via YouTube channel ECADIN. There you can rewatch the full program after this event finish. Oh, my fault. I forgot to 2, 3. Congratulations for all the winners. Okay. The committee will contact you as soon as possible, yeah?
Yep, a lot of door prize for participants today. Awesome.
Okay. As I said, don't forget to fill your name into a chat room in Zoom and live chat on YouTube. And you will receive an e-certificate for the webinar participation through your email. And you can also rewatch this seminar full program after this event finished in YouTube channel ECADIN. Okay, I'm Theodorus Daniel.
And I'm Vania Fitrianti Herlambang. Would like to say thank you very much to all collaborating and supporting partners, speakers, and also participants joining us today. We hope you all enjoy the program and see you on another occasion. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Together, let's invest in our planet. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye-bye.